Yeah, thank you. And just, I guess, because the SHA legislation has been raised, just to settle any concerns people have got, we're making it clear to the Minister, and it certainly is in that this Auckland will not be accepting new SHAs. This is simply a piece of legislation that will be utilised in Auckland to allow the last remaining, possibly one SHA to be finalised. Most of the others should be safely across the line, and we don't need any new SHAs because we've got the unitary plan. So just we need to put that message out there.
Yep.
No more SHAs, thank you, don't bother asking. Okay, Councillor Casey.
I had a question to anybody just about the airbase. We had a really good visit out there some time ago. It's with regard to the parcels of land that they own outside of the base. I can see on this map there's some property just at the entrance, but I can't see it's got a white code here for NZDF parcels, but I can't find any parcels.
Yeah, through the chair, it's an unusual circumstance where on the map, the dark grey area is the airbase, and then also this smaller square where the aerials are kept. And that is the land that is designated for airbase activities, including the runway lights at either end. But then the Ministry of Defence owns some land outside of the designation for housing, and so some of their personnel are housed there. And so we have made the decision to include that as part of the Whenuapai structure plan, because the Defence Force have categorically said that the defence base is not part of the structure plan because they do not wish to imply that it might be used for residential purposes. However, we continue to talk to them about their Defence Force housing that is outside of the designated base, and we'll engage with them before the plan change about how exactly they want that zoned. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, it doesn't. My question was, where is that land?
Oh, okay.
There's a code for it, but I can't find it on the map.
Erin, point that side because
Sorry,
you can't
it's
see that.
it's this cross-hatched area here. So some land down adjacent to Pine Pack Mill, which is we've identified as mixed medium density. So, sorry, the map is a little bit small.
So how many parcels of land are there outside of the base?
Pardon?
How many parcels of New Zealand Defence Force land are there outside of the base?
I couldn't tell you that. Maybe a dozen.
So you're in negotiation with them about how that's going to be?
Yes.
Well, discussion. Yes.
Yeah, discussion.
They own the land. Yes.
Yeah. Is there a chance that they can divest that land?
I think that the more we talk to them, the more they start to think of other possibilities. Yes.
So that's a yes.
Well,
It's a
there's always a
possibility.
chance. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't like to overplay that.
Through the chair, I could add that when we were on base with the base commander and his staff, they were talking about the fact that one of the difficulties they're having is housing their staff, and that staff are now having to enter the private market for accommodation. So I think most of that housing is actually full of staff, and so they were saying they've got the other issue of too many people working at the base who want to live in close proximity, but there isn't room for them. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Casey. Any other questions before we put the recommendation?
Well, there's one.
Yeah.
For the first 3 or 4 years, the new residents will have to travel to Westgate for swimming and recreation because there's nothing locally. There's the local hall. So do you see that? When do you see a local facility that would provide local recreation and swimming?
Through the chair, the open space and also the community facilities have been looked at in a much wider context than Whenuapai, and so there are facilities at Westgate and
Yeah, that's a 4K
and
drive. You can't walk to Westgate.
Yeah, that's true. And so over time and over the life of the structure plan, which is, the next 20 years, those community facilities will be developed. There currently isn't a population to support those facilities, and our community facilities people have been looking at that and identified the likelihood of some type of facility in the what will be called Whenuapai Centre, not Whenuapai Village. Where exactly that is and when that is operational, I'm not sure.
And I like the idea of a satellite library in the interim, which is great. So libraries are always onto it.
Just a point, we've got one community facility already open and run by council at Hobsonville Point now, the building next door, the headquarters building. We're in the process of the detailed design, so that'll be coming on stream in the next year. We've got sports fields being developed at Scott Point that will be open for use in 3 years. That's going to serve the wider catchment. Just a point about Upper Harbour generally, we don't have many communities that have community facilities within a 4K walk. Like it's a big geographic area. It's not the norm to have walk-up facilities. Most of our people drive perhaps 12Ks to go to the library. That's if they're close. So it's different. Urban is different than greenfields, and what we're used to is not what's happening going forward, because we can't afford that level of service, quite frankly. Yeah. So there isn't an expectation by us that everyone has everything within walking distance.
That's a really good way of putting it, Lisa. I think
Sorry.
for people in Whenuapai and having, this was for Linda Cooper and I, this was our old area. For the people of Whenuapai, the Westgate Centre is just up the road, so it feels very, very close. It is very rural, and for them now to be able to go just over the road to Hobsonville is even closer. So, whilst we are looking very, very closely at the pool for Massey, and I hope in the next term everyone's going to be behind the pool up in Massey, the unfolding of community facilities in that area will happen.
But as a network, not as a board by board. Sorry.
Exactly.
On needs-based evidence, as will be we need one and walk with.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Right, Councillor Walker, and then and Member Wilcox, and then I think we'll put the recommendation.
Just looking at how we deal with things going forward, and I'll just cast my mind to a couple of other areas. Up at Millwater, in Silverdale and also Hobsonville, we've had the advantage that we've been dealing with very large landowners. So the consequences, it's been a lot easier to negotiate deals over a whole range of things. They go to transport, they go to open space, they go to a range of things. Certainly as far as Millwater is concerned, under the Rodney District Council, there were very generous areas of reserve, a lot of advanced planning. Whenuapai is a little different. If we take out the airbase, my understanding is that the ownership is very, very fractured. So how are we going to get on in terms of negotiations, pulling people together, in terms of collaboration, to make a lot of things happen?
I think, through you, Madam Chair, there's no doubt that it's more difficult when there are multiple owners. And I will say, I guess through the course of doing this structure plan, land holdings have changed ownership already along the way, and as we go through the plan change process, it will as well. And there are various landowners who have got together, and we have had, I think, 3 meetings now with landowners and developers, and have talked about how we might encourage them to get together. And I think some of that work will be, while we may be able to assist in some of that, some of the work that's being done within the DPO and Panuku are areas where project management can happen. And at the last meeting with developers, we talked about just exactly some of those costs and how, as a whole, we needed to see how we were creating this new community. And we talked about the difference between an SHA being a residential development primarily, and a structure plan trying to create a community and all the things that went with it. So it's going to be more challenging than it was at Millwater. It was, in retrospect, I didn't feel it at the time, but in retrospect it felt easy to sign those 11 developer agreements that we did. But I think we'll be able to use the resources of the council to bring a lot of that together and to try and design, which we have been, excuse me, design some of the stages so that the development of the infrastructure will really encourage people to work together. No doubt we will have landowners who want to stand aside, and even working with single developers, you find there's one on the edge. But I think we're pretty conscious of how we implement this, and the challenge that's ahead for the council and for the developers to work on that.
So within the planning office, have we got some people, some specific people that are dedicated to a coordinated exercise going forward in terms of point of contact, pulling everything together?
Can I comment on that, Madam Chair? Warren is the person who probably brought most of Millwater together. So for a former Rodney District Councillor to ask if we've got anyone of Warren is a bit, I think, strange. Warren,
Madam
you've done
Chair,
a great job.
I wasn't asking Councillor Webster.
And you did a great job in Millwater.
Through you, Madam
Councillors,
Chair.
and through me, the answer is yes, we do have them. We've got Warren. So we're going to move on to Member Wilcox.
Yeah, I think enough corridors been had. I'd just like to say thank you. It was a great experience going out to Whenuapai, talking to all the people and getting their comments, and also talking to whānau afterwards, you know, when I went out there and spoke to the marae at Piringatai and Rewiti. They were most appreciative, so thank you so much.
Excellent. So I think we'll put that, and at the same time warmly thank Erin Shields and Warren McLennan for a job well done, and the team that's backed them. So I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Excellent work, team. So our final